Hello and welcome to episode 34 of the Car Podcast with Chris Harris and his friends, whose names are Chris, Neil and Manish. One of them's from India. I want to start today's recording with a subject that I think Neil Clifford raised in his long list of thoughts that he has on a weekly basis, but it's one that really struck home. What's the most pathetic boot for our transatlantic cousins, trunk, or for our Porsche cousins, frunk, that you've ever come across? So let's start with Neil Clifford, who's probably thought about this quite a lot.
Yes, I suppose that when I was doing my long list on my aeroplane trip back from Miami, one of my favourite cars that I own has the most pathetic boot, which is the Alpine 110. And
I won't have that.
You know what? Actually, I owned the car for 2 months before I realised it had a boot. And that is really, really, really true because, I'd read all of the auto car tests and, it's the best car that's ever been built since the 1970s. But the only problem is the storage. And I could only find the back boot. And then it took me a couple of months to realise there is a front boot. Well, when you open it up, it's clearly very underwhelming, the front boot, because you can only fit a banjo in it. And clearly the banjo is not that useful for us modern.
I've got to stop here because I keep substituting the word boot for bottom in what Neil's saying.
Yeah, I have to say that's in my head as well.
It's making me giggle. Yeah. I know. So Neil, can you stop that, please? Carry on.
Yeah, has the Supreme Court opined on the Alpine this week?
No, I keep substituting the word boot for bottom, and you're talking about front bottom, and back
really?
bottom.
The front bottom on my Alpine can only fit a banjo.
Is that a metaphor?
But that is it's really a sad situation because that car would actually do everything. If it had a 911 front boot, it would be probably the perfect bloody car. And in all first world problems, the other car that has a shit boot is that.
For those of you that can't see us, Neil Clifford just moved his camera to show an F40.
But it's I've been to Le Mans a couple of times, and you literally can take you can take a flannel and a toothbrush and a very small deodorant can and a pair of shoes on the front seat. That's about it. But so maybe we could argue that really good cars have small boots.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a thing there because the designer has really thought about the amazingness of the car, and actually, who really gives a shit about a boot? It's quite a boring thing, isn't it? So, there's two cars.
You've left several open sores there that I'm sure Chris Cooper's now going to apply Sudocrim to. Right, off we go.
I was wondering, Neil, did you not find the front boot for a while because you found the lever to it difficult to locate?
Because you get used to boots being electrically operated on a key.
Yeah. And
by the way, as we're talking about annoying things, the Alpine 110 has the most annoying fucking key as well, because you can't actually see what button is what. And then I'm half blind. So you can't even see the little, because it's not illuminated. It's, for lightness probably. Basically, and I only tracked it down because I was studying the front of the car thinking, well, if there's not a front boot, why is there actually a line going all the way round there? There must be a hole in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I was tempted to see whether anybody's got my intended double entendre for whether you'd located the switch for the front boot. We'll move on.
No, I ignored it. I did get it. I ignored you.
Well, okay, well done. Okay, well, that makes me feel better. I've got to defend the honour of the Alpine A110. Those of you who follow my rather sort of nascent, meagre Instagram posting, I've been in my Alpine this week in Cornwall. And I think it's a lovely car for Cornwall because the front thing is quite good for a sort of a low bag, and stuff doesn't fly around everywhere. And the rear boot, I think there's only one car that wins this. It's the car with no boot at all. The 992 GT3 RS. Doesn't have any boot.
That's a good one. That's a
doesn't
good
have any boot.
You're right. That makes the car less appealing.
I mean, these are first world problems because if you have the Visac pack and the funny carbon, beautifully formed cage, you can't get a lid into that space in the back. So the lid has to go with the passengers in the front. So you really need a mothership or a sort of helpful co-traveller. You can take your lids with you and get a squashy bag and sort of toothpaste squeeze it through the roll cage.
What is the lid for? Why aren't you taking the container as well as the lid?
You'd have the little lid carrier thing, yeah.
Oh, you mean a crash helmet?
I mean a crash helmet, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Racing driver term.
Failed racing driver term, yeah. Failed never was racing driver term. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just part of the fun of the adventure of travelling. And I love travelling in the Alpine, even though it's got a ship frunk and a slightly sort of weirdly shaped back bottom boot.
With a banjo. It's a fantastic car.
Do you think... I think you could fit a broken banjo in the front. That's not a metaphor. I think it would have to be actually broken.
Manish, help us here,
yeah,
Manish.
Take over.
Restore dignity. By the way, I noticed a very, very subtle little plug for Chris's personal social media channels there. And in the interest of equality, if anyone else would like to do that right now is your opportunity.
I think we'll all stay to curbsman.
Manish, after you.
Curbsman.
The curbing.
What does the Oxford English Dictionary say about the word pathetic? So
what does it say, Manish?
Well, it says arousing pity through vulnerability or sadness or miserably inadequate. So I think there is actually only one winner to this. And it's a car that has got a boot. And it's experiential for me. It is the Chrysler PT Cruiser Cabriolet.
Good call.
You've never seen a car so big with such a crappy little boot in such a bad location. Yeah. And it's also got the kind of guillotine. It's got the guillotine door. So it effectively hinges at the top. The boot, if you're standing up, and I'm not a tall man, is somewhere between your waist and the upper part of your knee. It's incredibly deep, but incredibly low and not particularly wide. So you put anything in it, you're reaching right inside. You shut this door. It's rubbish. It is the worst boot ever in the history of any car. And it is a very ugly car as well.
It is.
So
it's the least of its problems. Does it fit a string instrument of any size?
I think a viola would go into
a ukulele.
Slight diagonal on that. Perhaps a tenor horn, a euphonium. Any other slightly crazy?
No, but I tell you now, I'm issuing cards now. I'm issuing cards as a referee. Chris Cooper is on a yellow card because what you didn't see if you're listening is he's just pretended to play a banjo. And that's an action that can be misinterpreted by many of our viewers.
Indeed.
Think before you play air banjo and the position of their knuckles. Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, did you know that the SF90, the boot in that is 73 litres?
Yeah, I've seen that. It's pretty bad.
That is way too small.
Well, I tell you what, that's on my list. So the SF90 is the example I'd give for truly pointless boot or luggage space design, because I don't mind if a car doesn't have a boot or a frunk or somewhere to put luggage. But if you've got something that's so miserable and inadequate, don't go to the expense of having a latch and a panel that lifts up to only reveal something that couldn't hold a pint of beer. That's what I don't understand. The SF90 was that I could see the Ferrari guys when I was about to do my let's have a look at the boot, and you see them all going, oh shit, he's actually going to look in there now. And I opened it up and I said, can you take that panel out? That's obviously you put something underneath that. They went, no, that's your lot. I was just, well. And so there are lots of cars actually there are many Lamborghinis that have pop-up panels, and you go, you think, what's that for? I couldn't put anything in there, so lots of cars, I think, are guilty of that. The point at which it becomes useful is probably sort of Lotus Elise sized, but of course the problem with the Elise the original Elise was that it was so close to the engine and the exhaust that whatever you put in there, if you put eggs in there, they came out fried.
Yeah.
But there was always one car that struck me as having, It was a brave piece of design, and it had almost a deliberately, wantonly useless boot. It was testing how much boot space a family actually needed, and it actually came up short. So cast your mind back to 1986, and Audi under Piech has just sort of begun to reinvent itself. For the first time, Audi is not sharing a VW chassis, and it launches two cars, the 80 and the 90, and you'll know where I'm going with this. And they were shaped like bars of soap. They were the B3 variant. If you're a nerd,
they were cool.
And I still think they're great looking cars.
Yeah,
actually.
cool
Really
car.
brave design. They were the galvanized cars that they've only just started to really rock because they were made like submarines. They were incredibly resistant to wear and tear. And I can remember reading as a nipper, so I'd have been about 10 or 11, the first reviews of this car in Car Magazine. And all the writers were just going on about how small the boot was and how I think it lost a group test because it had no boot. And I remember thinking, well, this is ridiculous because actually, it's just a boot. How can a car lose a test on because of boot space? And then my father, my late father, I think he switched from BMW to Audi. I don't know. He must have fallen out with a dealer or something. And he bought an Audi 90 Quattro instead of a BMW. And he came home with it. And I was like, oh, it's red. It was cool. Had a Quattro badge on the boot. But it had the double whammy of a full-size spare in the boot and the higher floor because it had a rear diff and all the running gear underneath the back of the boot. I remember getting home and he hadn't researched this. I think he'd been persuaded by his 10-year-old kid. And he opened the boot and I remember him saying to me, where are you supposed to put your golf clubs? And I went, I don't really know, Daddy. And he went, well, that's completely useless. I can't use it then. And I can remember him giving me a slightly wry look when a few months later we had to go to Heathrow Airport to go on holiday. And I had a suitcase on my lap in the back seat because it wouldn't go in the boot. If you go and look at the pictures of it, they made a car without a boot, really. It looked amazing.
It looked
very
good.
Short, right? It was very
short boot.
That short overhang.
Yeah.
Did that have a non-turbo 5-cylinder engine?
The first one did, yeah. Well, they all had none. They all had non. It was a 2.2, I think it was, or 2.3.
Yes, 5
Full engine at the time.
Couldn't pull the skin off a rice pudding, but it was. But it looked good.
Sounded good.
But it literally had no boot.
That's a winner of this.
Well, I don't know. It's an utterly boring story, but you managed to get through it all right. We managed to steer it away from talk of front and rear bottoms. So I feel like.
Could I just update the viewers on Lola? The boot switch apparently is not working. So if you press the boot switch, the boot won't open. Apparently, the petrol cap switch is in the same fettle, and they're doing some electrical diagnostics. I've driven this car 8 times in 13 months.
On another commercial note, could I ask our listeners and viewers just to sort of give us some feedback as to whether they might find a range of T-shirts with little outline line drawings of all the components on Manish's Lola that have failed? We could market that range of T-shirts. Would people find that attractive? Do please let us know.
Was wearing it, I think.
There'll be plenty more bits that are going to fail. Don't worry.
Exactly. It's a winner.
We could also play a game of bingo where we make the shirts in advance of the parts going wrong.
Yeah.
That's even better.
God. And I have to wear one.
It'll be back next week, Manish. They'll fix it. They're good guys.
I know.
Don't worry about that. We'll get it all fixed up. Now, this next one came out of nowhere. I don't know why. You have to make a pickup out of an expensive car because you've gone mad. Which do you choose to butcher? Chris Cooper, what are you applying the angle grinder to?
I think this is a really good question.
Brilliant.
Because this gets to the heart of a car that you think is shit and has no place in society or in our world, but making it a pickup would be really cool. There's only one winner.
Go on.
It's a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I think in the Middle Eastern region of the globe, said Cullinan made into a pickup style with those big sort of like chrome roll bar things just behind the sort of the people cab. I think that would sell like hotcakes.
It'll be cool. It'll be like an LM002 Lamborghini.
That's what I was thinking of, yeah. You could either make a crew cab version, like a double cab version, or a single cab. I like the idea of a single cab version, and I like the idea that you could take the tops of the doors off, the front doors that were left, and just have the screen there like a Series 1, Series 3 Land Rover long wheelbase,
Yeah.
and a Rolls-Royce Cullinan version of that. That's a T-shirt.
Right, there. I tell you what, we're going to struggle to beat that. Can you get near that, Neil, or not?
Yes.
Of course you can.
Yeah, of course I can. So this has already been done by one of the coolest car dudes in the UK, which is called Anthony Bamford. And he converted, and I was driving this car today, not obviously his car, but my shitty old rough version of it, a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. And he converted for use at JCB a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow into a pickup truck.
Look at that.
Oh, look at
Have you seen that it's wooden?
Yeah, I put all the photos. So it's often frequented at Bicester. Clark and Carter did the conversion. One of the most amazing bodywork car restoration people in the UK. And look at the sign. Look at the sign on the back.
Can't see it.
Pickup.
Oh,
Yeah.
in Rolls-Royce font.
In
In the Rolls-Royce font.
Beautiful.
That's my Cullinan. That is
It is. It's the
synergy
same.
of our thinking. We are wasted in this podcast.
It's all wooden in the back. I know it's a bit crap to see the light here.
We'll put photos up of it. We'll put photos of it.
So
currently,
Bamford already had the idea, and he had the money too,
Executed it.
so he went and did it.
That is a Silver Shadow El Camino, isn't it?
yeah.
It's in the flesh. It's so brilliantly done. And there's an article actually, and I think in Classic and Sports Car, which you can sort of Google and have a read about it, and how Clark Carter did all the work over a couple of years and made all the beautiful hinges, and it's cool as fuck, basically.
Does he still have it?
Yeah. JCB
seen
number
that.
plate, JCB 42.
That is cool.
Brilliant.
Currently honours even between Cooper and Clifford, because I think fair enough. Where are we going with this, Manish?
Well, one of the absolute joys of doing this show is a little bit of research. And I found a company called Remetz Car. And its little motto is stretching luxury cars into limousines. And what they do is they do this basically with CGI. But my God, so they've done something called the Maybach hearse. They turned a Maybach into... You just got to log... We'll put the website up. It's bedwettingly funny, this site. But they too have taken the Phantom and turned it into that pickup. Look at that.
You need to stretch the screen a bit. Otherwise,
I can see it. So is that real or is that CGI?
No, CGI. So it's CGI. So they've got these. So I thought that was quite difficult to top until I found someone who had actually done this to a Ferrari 412.
Oh,
that's
That
cool.
actually looks kind of beautiful, doesn't it?
that is a Maloo.
That's good. That's good, Zach.
Ferrari Maloo.
Ferrari 412 pickup. If you're going to take something that's beautiful or that you don't think is beautiful and make it into something beautiful, look at something beautiful that's turned. And he's got paints in the back. I mean, he
I
actually
know what
uses
website that will be for sale in London on very shortly.
I
And
love
that Donovan.
I love it. So that
You
would
could be saying that.
So that is that's for those that can't see, get to the YouTube because that's three really good cars. I thought I had a winner here. I'm not sure I do, but I still think I've got a good one. I would have gone. I like the idea of wantonly butchering something that you know is expensive but you don't really like. So I would have gone Cullinan too. There's lots of car makers that have done this. If you Google them, to make camera cars out of pre-prod cars. So when you go to film, Ford at Lommel always had some really cool converted cars. BMW have got lots of slightly Frankenstein, weird BMW M cars that have been turned. There's an M3 that's a pickup and all sorts. There's an E30 pickup as well.
Oh, cool.
But I found this one, and I think, certainly for Neil, he'll like this. This is a W126 560 SEL pickup.
Oh, shit.
Look at
Oh,
that.
love it.
And
Love it.
it just looks right.
It
to me.
looks right.
We have solved motoring.
We have. That's by Schultz Automobile of the Germany. And I tell you now, if I could cruise about in that, I would love it.
Yeah.
One thing that I've added is we made a pickup of a car for one of the last things I did on Top Gear was we went to Thailand and had pickups because they all drive pickups. So they butchered a crap old E30 out there, which is all rusty. And I got in real trouble. Oh, how dare you ruin an E30? No, we prolonged the life of a shit E30. What you forget is when you take the rear bodywork off a car, you radically ruin its handling. I mean, you don't just alter it. There's no weight over the back, so you've got no traction whatsoever. And the first moment you turn into a corner, the back just overtakes you. And it's one of the few cars I've spun on the public highway straight away. I got in it and thought, this is fun. And I was just facing backwards somewhere near Bangkok at a roundabout. Or a sort of traffic lighting thing. What happened there? So if you're going to make pickups, children, make sure you leave lots of pots of paint in there the whole time.
Yeah.
Next one. Here we go. Sorry, I'm having to refer back to my list here, which is as follows. Aha. The next one, which Chris could find very funny, is I pressed send by mistake, more coming. That's because I couldn't send a completed agenda.
Yeah.
Chris said, that's an interesting topic. What are we going to say about that? So it's over to you, you smug bastard, Cooper. Press send by mistake, more coming. What have you got to say about that?
Well, I think we're back into front bottoms and back bottoms there, aren't we? Really.
Ukuleles.
And other wind or string instruments. Maybe we should just move on from there.
Where do we stand on chrome trim? I'm going to answer this first.
Ooh.
I think I've asked this because I may or may not, and no one says anything else here, specified a car last year and had to really think about whether it had chrome trim or not. And in the past, it would have been a no. So I'm going to propose to my learned friends that your attitude towards chrome trim is the thing that totally defines your age and the stage you're at in your relationship with the motor car. And I'm going to ask Neil Clifford to continue that thought.
I think that's true because it's a bit like black wheels, isn't it? Younger people prefer the black trim. And we all went through that moment of, oh my God, wouldn't it be great to have a Sportline black trim on my BMW or my Audi? It looks so much cool with the dark line spec. Yeah. And then suddenly, I don't know whether it's having children or, getting past 40, or maybe it's just about rarity. I think Chris has explained this very much many times before about colours. As soon as a thing reaches a peak of popularity, you reject it, you push back against it, you want to go the opposite direction. Maybe that's the sort of contrary nature of the car lover. We love the rarity, and therefore the chrome trim, I suppose I'll give an example of a 991 GT3 Touring that I stupidly sold, obviously. I went straight for the chrome trim, even though...
What colour was the car? What colour was the car?
I fucked that up as well. It was agate grey. And I really, if I hadn't have chosen the wrong colour, I should have gone to white, obviously. But you end up with all these sort of juxtaposed, I don't want black and I don't like Bolsol and jet black's a bit boring and do I want the blue, and that the nice blue wasn't out in 991, it was a boring blue or it was a bright colour, and then there was that bloody lava thing that was cool for about 3 minutes and then suddenly it was faded. It was like a Renault 9 faded, wasn't it? And actually the coolest colour of the 991 is ultraviolet.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know we're not talking about what's your coolest car of a 991 Porsche, are we? But I think ultraviolet, I think it's a brilliant bloody colour. But yes, I went chrome trim on the GT3 Touring, and with chrome, not chrome wheels, obviously, but with silver wheels. And if it hadn't been agate grey, I probably wouldn't have sold it. But yes, it's a moment in time that you reach, whether it's age or whether it's popularity. I'm not sure which way that goes, to be honest.
Chris Cooper?
Chrome is good.
Chrome is good. Yeah.
Chrome is good. and I think it's the marker of how taste has changed. I think there is an age thing possibly to it, although young people of my acquaintance often say, in fact, one texted me just now to say black wheels and trim is heresy. So I'm going to come on to this when we talk about baddie cars as well, because there's one particular car which I think totally sums up this trend. So chrome is good. I found myself idly a moment ago, just before we started, looking at the BMW configurator. And on the little thumbnails, before you actually click on configure this car, there are cars with chrome trim. Oh, that's nice. Chrome trim, silver wheels. And you get to the configurator page, you click it, and it's got black wheels and black trim. Fuck off. It's just horrible. Just really irritating. Excuse my French. I don't like swearing on this. But I was really cross. I felt really wounded and hurt by that. So chrome is big chrome bumpers, 1957 American style, Wayne Cherry and all those amazing American styles. It's a bit too much, even today. A little bit of silver trim around the windows. The sausage has silver trim around the windows.
60s chrome.
It has the lightest wheels. And I think it's understated. And this sort of walk softly and carry a big stick. You can walk more softly and hide the size of your stick, banjo, ukulele, or otherwise, if you have silver trim around the windows. Chrome is good.
What was it called, BMW? That was Shadow Line. What was the sort of...
Shadow Line or Sport Line? Yeah, Shadow Line, yeah.
Shadow Line, yeah. And if I obviously I wasn't, because I was, what was I? I was 20 or something. 1985, if you were walking into, I don't know, Snows of Winchester or whatever dealership, and you had 40 grand and you were going to order an M5, I would have so got it wrong. That was my car forever. I would have done a shit job, because I'd have gone Shadow Line and black with black leather, and black wheels if I could. I'd have buggered it up, really. It's only in hindsight that you wish you had the chrome E28.
There's only one car that it's this black wheel thing is interesting, because I think now they are horrific. 997 GT3 RS Gen 1 had black wheels. I think almost, there were some came with the orange wheels if you had the orange decals, and they look on silver. That just looked ridiculous. Most people had black wheels. I had one with black wheels, and I sort of thought it looked okay. And even now you'd think, actually, that looks okay for that car, for that time.
I think it's true that your own black wheels are good. It's everyone else's that are shit.
I'd always reserve that right.
Manish, chrome.
I sort of thought about this, and you may be right about age, but I think chrome and black are a little bit like hi-fis, I think. Hi-fis go through this sort of decade or decade and a half of looking great in chrome or that kind of silver. Then they switch to black, and then only black separates look good. Then back they come again, and then back they go again. It's quite it's quite up and down. I was thinking, I think cars with proper B pillars, so basically four-door cars, I think they all look really good with chrome trim. I think they look great. And the darker the car, I think the more subtle and brilliant it looks. Where I think black can work a bit better, dare I say it, is in coupes, in two-door cars where the B pillar is basically, you're trying to make it as thin as possible. I don't even know if they're
floating is the expression, yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, pillarless is the aim of the aesthetic.
But the point is, if you do have black trim on that, what you really appreciate then is just the shape from the front window right through the curve of the back window, and that without a chrome vertical, just aesthetically, it just looks better. It's just a shape, just in the same way.
From front bottom to back bottom, that's amazing.
That line, exactly that line. But the point being, you don't like tinted rear windows, nor do I, because I think it ruins the actual shape of the car. It looks like a body panel instead of a window. And I think that's when, if you do have black trim, especially very thin black trim between the front window and the back, actually, I think that can work. But in general, I'm with you. I think there's a a kind of understated class to a very thin line of chrome. And I think the darker the car, the more beautiful for me that is.
Yeah,
what do we
that's
look
true.
at? Oh, beautiful.
Mercedes.
Yeah,
We
our
definitely
producer
need
just
to-
sent that to me. That exactly sums up what you just said, Manish.
One
Definitely need
forgets
to
also,
do our favourite pillarless car.
we'll do that.
That's a
Don't
good
worry,
one.
I'll get
Yeah.
that on your
Well
list.
said.
I own it.
I think with chrome trim, there's another side to it which harks back to the differences in cars 20, 30 years and going further back than that. Chrome trim was a really good denominator of how expensive your car was and how well built it was, because there was a real difference between the chrome trim of a British Leyland product and a Mercedes-Benz or a Rolls-Royce. You could immediately use the trim on the outside to tell you what quality of vehicle you were looking at or dealing with. Whereas obviously it's now much more uniform when it's produced. Although I still think subtly there are some car makers that take some pride in this. That Alpina I've got, the F80, whatever it is, the diesel one, the D3, that has a wider, the sort of trailing edge of the trim on the back of the C-pillar, it gets thicker.
Thicker, yeah.
And it's so well made.
yes.
Honestly, you could punch it and you'd break your knuckles, and I don't think it would move a millimetre. Whereas, some of the chrome trim I've seen on 911 Tourings isn't as good and
No,
doesn't
it's
fit
not.
as well.
It comes away, actually.
Yeah, so I think you can still subtly use it, and I agree with Manish the distinction with chrome trim doesn't work if you've got the UK style rear window heavily tinted and front windows clear. I think it looks incongruous, doesn't look quite right. But for me, in my head, admiring chrome trim is part of the aging process. I look at when I had a C, whatever it is, C8, C7, RS6 10 years ago, I wanted it in that primer grey and I wanted the black trim.
Yes.
And now all I'd like is a dark metallic blue with all the chrome trim on the windows, please.
Yes.
I don't want
Yeah.
the black trim.
Funny you should mention that.
RS6 Plus.
So you remember the Countach I was telling you about, the 001? That was the only one that they did with a chrome trim as opposed to all the others that were in black. Just have a look at that. See if you can ignore the colour, ignore the lime green. Just look at the window. It looks stunning, actually. I think the chrome on that, it's a unique car. And if I had a Countach, I think I might specify that.
Can I just say that before we move on, in a piece of pedantry that I expect to be corrected, I think a 635 CSI with delete chrome trim wasn't a shadow line, it was a high line. But I might be wrong.
Ooh, that's,
Well, I think wasn't Highline a optional, more luxury spec car in
Could be.
general?
but I think
Yes,
it did
yes,
have.
it was. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. The
It did
Highline
have
was.
that. I think you're both right.
Highline had
both
more
right,
leather.
children.
It had
We
extended leather.
are being inclusive today, aren't we? Now, let's move on to Formula One. There was a race last weekend, and I'm going first this time to Chris Cooper because he's asked me if he can go first. So I said yes.
Good.
Well, thank you. I was left with one question in my mind after this race. Lots of things we can talk about elsewhere, but there's one question left in my mind. Will Lewis finish this F1 season?
Oh, you fucking... Of course he will.
It's not negative. It's not negative. It's heartfelt. And honestly, I don't know whether he will or not. And none of us know. But his interviews in the pens were really difficult to watch. When Fred was interviewed in the pit lane after the race by somebody who said, and he pretty much said, I don't really want to talk about this until I've spoken to Lewis. What to say? Max has now nearly overtaken his win rate. In the hybrid era from 14 to the end of 21, I think Manch will correct me, I know because he's got the figures down, Lewis pretty much won half of all of those races.
He did, yeah.
From beginning of 14 to end of 21. And Max himself had a pretty barren run once he got into the Red Bull when they didn't have a good car and the engine wasn't ready, blah, blah, blah. It's really painful to watch somebody who is such a hero, and he is the greatest driver there's ever been, certainly statistically, an extraordinary sporting ambassador for Great Britain and for lots of others around the world. I really feel for him. And watching, I've mentioned this before, when on Australia, the first race of the year, when Martin interviewed Anthony on the grid and said, with all the new novices and the rookies, you guys have seen it all before. It's just another race. And Anthony said, no, it isn't. We feel like rookies again. And I just wonder whether that's part of it. I do feel for him. He was a long way off Charles in quali in the race, 31 seconds. He didn't initially get much sort of coverage, that sort of big stat. Maybe this generation of car just doesn't suit his driving style. But I wonder whether we'll look back to this race. Statistically, and the balance of probabilities, he'll finish the season and it'll be fine. But I was shocked to find myself thinking at the end of this weekend, actually, will he carry on? I don't know. He will. I'm sure he will, but it's a question now in my mind, and it's for very positive and supportive and paternal reasons as much as it's not negative. It's beyond that.
Neil, answer that. Why do you think he will?
Because he's cool and he's strong and he's tough and he's been through so much shit in his life, as if he's going to give up. He could have given up many, many, many times. Yeah, he's a Formula One driver. He's won 6 or 7, whatever it bloody is, 7. He's getting 100 million a year. He's loves what he does. He's obviously not happy there. The car doesn't work for him. I'm not Mr. Technical and all this at all, but he wasn't bullshitting, was he? He wasn't excuses. I thought he was very frank. He wasn't blaming other people, which I thought was a lovely trait of a decent human being, because most other Formula One drivers who are more selfish and self-obsessed would be blaming other people. He just said, I can't explain it. Clearly the car's good enough to finish third, right? Was it third?
Yep.
I thought that was a good answer. Not the easiest of answer for him. And he's clearly a bit pissed off, and the car's not that fantastic. And you got Max, who's just the best driver, and McLaren, the best car. And he's sort of stuck down there with the also-rans, I suppose, isn't he? I mean, frankly, it's the circle of life, isn't it? He's probably just getting a bit old. Even though I don't want to admit that, because I adore him. I think that's the nature of it. Gary Lineker still isn't playing the Premier League, is he?
No.
It catches up with you, doesn't it? I suppose, and maybe that is the bit of the issue. I hope Ferrari sort it out for him. He's obviously not going to get anywhere near the bloody title or win a race this year by the looks of it, is he? But I hope he's got more in him. I hope he's got a season or two, because he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
Manish?
Very little to add to that. I think my fear going into this season with him moving to Ferrari was that it was going to be a very, very different car. He's been with Mercedes since 2013. It's a long time. It's a long time to have a car built around you. There was a big rule change. You didn't adapt to it well, or particularly well in a Mercedes. You may be right. There's a biological element as well. You slow down. But my fear this year was the Ferrari was going to be the 3rd or 4th best car. And then your fear beyond that is that they're going for 5th and 6th places, or 7th and 8th. And occasionally they might bump up one if the circuit and the temperature and everything else is right. But in general, that's where they're going to fight. And you know that Leclerc is very special, very quick, and he might fight 1 or 2 places up, which is what he's done. And you know that Lewis is going to take some time to adapt, if he does properly, which means he's going to be fighting for 5th or 6th or maybe even 7th. And I think what was, I thought, more properly painful in this was seeing Antonelli finish ahead of him. That was quite tough, because you'll be sitting there thinking, I've gone back in my mind over this 1,000 times. I can see that it was a fantastic coup to get Lewis to Ferrari. We got the photo at Maranello, the suit, the shoes, the F40, the handshakes with the mechanics. But this was always going to be something that would go wrong badly if it went wrong on the track. And it's going to be quite difficult to make something of this in terms of PR if he's so unhappy. If he was rolling up to the press conferences, when I was in Bahrain, I actually went to the press pen and watched him. I just watched his body language. And it was really difficult to watch because this is a guy who's, after a race, normally standing on a podium, smiling, telling the audience, telling the fans, it's great to see you're the best fan since last week, doing a brilliant sort of Bruce Forsyth, soaking up the happiness, walking away with his trophy. And I'm slightly with Mr. Chris Cornwall, which is the idea that, it really is fighting in the midfield when you've got very few seasons left. It's just not a really nice way to bow out. It slightly reminds me of, because I'm into my Formula One history, there's got very slight shades of Graham Hill about it. He had these, this is a man who won at Monaco 5 times. He was a double world champion, and you see him at the end of his career kind of tooling around in his own team, an embassy team. He earned quite a lot of money from that sort of his penultimate season, last season. But you could see he wasn't enjoying it anywhere near as much as he should. And I think this is, Formula One's safe, okay, but it's not that safe. And I think they do risk their lives every time they get into the car without getting to the statistics of it. And, I think you should be enjoying your life. And, if Lewis isn't enjoying this, I think, he's a big enough guy to turn around and do a Niki Lauda, I think, and go, you know what? I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah,
I'm not
I think the fact that he's angry is a good sign for me.
Sure.
And I worry that he's not angry.
I worry that he's not angry. Yeah, I don't feel the anger. What I feel, it feels like the shoulders are very slightly dropped to me. I mean, maybe you'll find they are working very, very hard on that car. His relationship with engineers improving, and hopefully, there will be just some personal renaissance. But just on a non-Lewis note, I think we've got a bit of a season, haven't we? I mean,
Yes.
Well, what are people saying? They're saying Max is the best. As you said, McLaren is the second best. Probably Lando, certainly over a lap, is faster. But my God, Oscar is a package. And I loved his move on Max in that first corner. Max doing his usual, coming off the brakes. Oh, you forced me off. And, if that Red Bull, that's a problem with this formula, had got in front, I don't think Oscar would have won that because he said, his tyres were already confetti after, a few laps. But this is going to be feisty at the shop. And that Red Bull on fast corners is as quick as anything out there. I mean, that thing is working. And Tsunoda, it's quite interesting. I had a quick look, not at the lap times here at Bahrain, but I had a look at the Japanese Grand Prix. I mean, if he'd strung together his sectors, actually, he was pretty damn quick. I think that car is probably a little bit quicker than Red Bull are letting on. They're sort of doing the usual, Max genius. He is a genius. But I think on fast corners, that car is good. And I think Oscar Piastri is a fighter pilot pretending to be a motor racing driver. He's so cool.
Right now, the odds on the championship, Oscar is the favourite, 11 to 10. 11 to 10 you get. Not great odds. Lando is 2 to 1, basically half the price. Max is 6 to 1, which I think is cheap for him. I'm not into betting, but even I can tell those numbers say, Jesus Christ. So if you put 10 quid on Oscar, you get 11 quid back. If you put 10 quid on Max, you get 60 quid back. I think I put my money on Max in that respect. I think right now I'd say it's Oscar.
He's won 3 Grand Prix this season. He's won 3 out of 5 races. I mean, he's just very, very unlucky not to have come second in Australia. He was just a little bit wide. Otherwise, the guy would have 18 more points.
I really like Oscar. He's a very dry-witted, thoughtful, interesting little stato for you. The leader, Cameron gave me the stats yesterday. We were looking through some stuff. He said, did you know that the leader of the Formula One World Championship is younger than the current leader of the F2 Championship by a year? Richard Verschoor is the leader of the F2 Championship. When he's been in the F2 for a while now, Arvin Lindblad, British driver, who's 17 years old, won one of the F2 races in Saudi. Brilliant doesn't sound British, but he's a British driver, British license holder, fantastic talent. One of the finalists in the Autosport Young Driver Awards we saw at the event in January. When the guy who's leading F2 Championship first won an F2 race, Arvin Lindblad was 12 or 13 or something. They're quite young, these kids these days.
Have you seen Kimi Antonelli in the flesh? It's just quite freakish. It's this, I'm looking for his shorts, his little tie and his little blazer and his school cap. I mean, this is literally a prepubescent young man. I don't even know.
We can edit this out, man. It's just okay.
Okay.
Aren't we just old bastards? Aren't we doing the old policeman thing?
Maybe.
Oh, man, of course we're old bastards. So
what else have we got left?
The Lewis chat is interesting because I think Neil said, well, of course, Lewis is happy. I don't think he is. I think Lewis is currently probably looking around thinking, why am I doing this? And I spent a lot of time in Bahrain with someone who's become quite a good friend of mine. As people know, I don't really do friends, but I've become mates over time with this weird northerner called John McGuinness, who's a bit handy at riding motorcycles. And he not only is he fantastic company, but he also I think adds a sort of key element of understanding to Lewis's situation for me, because John McGuinness turns up to the TT every year, and he is in his 50s, and he knows unless something very, very odd happens, he has no chance of winning the senior TT. Okay? He's going to come normally 6th or 5th or around there, and yet he still turns up. He takes the biggest risk in any form of motorsport to turn up.
Yeah.
Right? And he does it because he loves it. It's quite simple. He does it because he loves it. And he'll stop doing it when he stops loving it. So this is a deeply competitive man that's won 23 TTs, right? His record is outstanding, and he's a deeply competitive man. But John is, I can't speak for him, but from having spoken to him at length about this, he's comfortable with where he sits. He's comfortable with turning up and not having a chance to win. So what does that mean to a Formula One driver? So does Fernando Alonso turn up comfortable with the fact he must know statistically he has pretty much no chance of winning a Grand Prix unless it's a Hungarian Jensen type situation where it's mayhem?
I think he does.
So he does, but that's the question that has to be asked of Lewis, doesn't it? And maybe that's the key to it. If I'm no sports psychologist, but if Lewis could relax into the fact that he's now an ambassador for the sport, and people will turn up and watch Lewis come 5th more than they will Antonelli winning a race, which is still the truth.
Yeah.
It's the same for Rossi at the end of his career. Maybe that inner peace might cause him to suddenly start going faster. I don't know, but there does seem to be he's in this weird sort of transitional zone where he's already the elder statesman of the sport, and it's quite clear he's not, unless something odd happens, he's probably not going to win a race. I hope I'm proven wrong about that. I really do. So do you then transition? Because let's face it, people growing old, sportsmen and women growing old in their sport, is unedifying, and yet we see it the whole time. It is the Lion King, isn't it? It's just it's becoming, you see them age and lose their powers, and how often do sportsmen make the right call, or women make the right call at the right time? Yeah. I mean, it's so rare that they do, because what defines them as competitive beasts means they can't make that decision at the right time. Of course they can't.
But just not to be too cynical, Chris, it's just also the peak earnings for a guy like Lewis have occurred right at the end of his career. I mean, if you believe the press, his retainers $60 million. That makes that decision 60 million times worse. I think if he was earning half of what he did at Mercedes, that decision might be easier. But in theory, these 2 years, apart from his endorsements, he can walk away with $120 million. That makes that decision so hard, doesn't it?
I don't know the extent to which Lewis is motivated by money, and it might well have an impact. So a couple of last thoughts. I really enjoyed the race. I think the circuit is sensational.
Yes,
because even on television, you get an idea of what these cars can do in the quick stuff and what the drivers are going through. So I love that. So big hand up and applause to the Saudis for that. I love it. People can be cynical about these new circuits, but that is big bollocks.
That's ballsy.
Yeah,
I loved, and I don't know what's happened. Well, why is it that the sulky Max of 5 years ago wound me up, but now I don't think he was hard done by. I think he should. I think there was a penalty. But when he sits there not talking afterwards, I love it.
So
I love it because he's just playing the game, and I love the fact he's playing the game. When he goes, I've nothing to say. There's no point in saying anything. That's more powerful than saying anything, and he knows it. And when he went into the sort of the podium room and just sat there, didn't talk to anyone, I'm like, suddenly I think this is really cool, and I like the way he's doing it.
Isn't it?
I think it's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he loves driving. He loves cars. He loves driving them. He's born to win. And I don't think he's making up anything about his frustration with social media or what he says. He's a very bright bloke. He's a very thoughtful, bright bloke.
Go and look at Mexico last year when he gets pushed off and gets a penalty. I mean, if I was him and the way they think, it's not. I know the rules are different this year, but I agree with Manish. I think we are poised potentially to see some fantastic battles.
Yeah,
some fantastic battles. I thoroughly enjoyed the race. I really did. More of it, please.
Where is it now? Where do we go next? What's the next
Miami.
race?
Miami.
Even hotter.
Miami. Here we go. This was one that. Where did this one come out of? What are we on to now? Oh, this is quite a fun one. I think we'll like this. What's the best baddie car on film and television? Manish, would you like to go first?
I'd love to go first. I think this is going to be unmatched.
Fighting talk.
There's a film called To Live and Die in LA that William Friedkin made, and it's about two cops. One is kind of quite dark, the other one is quite innocent, and they go after this kind of murderous counterfeiter. And the murderous counterfeiter lives in this amazing kind of desert hideout and is played by William Dafoe. And there's a lovely sequence where you actually see him making, I can't remember if they were $20 bills or $100 bills, but he's an artist. He's just this incredible artist, and he's almost monk-like. And he is just such an epitome of smooth evil. It's the only word for him. He's completely evil. And he drives a black Ferrari 308 GTS. Right. It's just black. And you see this car shot through the desert with a cacti and in LA, and it's the best baddie car. But it's basically a Batmobile for bad people. It's such a good car. That's the one.
They're good.
I'll be amazed if Neil Clifford's not going sort of mid-70s British TV. But I want him to prove me wrong. Neil, where are you going?
Okay, I'm stretching this one a little bit with a bit of irony.
Okay,
if you don't mind. So, have you ever noticed in the Hollywood movies that all villains are played by Brits?
Yes.
Maybe we just sound right. We are more focused, more precise. We're always one step ahead with a certain style, an eye for detail, and we're obsessed with power. A stiff upper lip is key, and we all drive Jaguars.
Tom Huddleston, whatever his name is.
Can you believe that was the second to last Jaguar TV ad campaign?
Yeah.
No.
It's good to be bad. The all-new Jaguar F-Type. What the fuck?
I'm going to struggle to beat that.
Put it on YouTube. And then what's the one after?
That is fantastic, Neil Clifford. That's a lovely soundbite. And you can leave it there. Chris Cooper, we're done here. Where are you going?
Well, has anybody watched Mobland, the quite entertaining new TV series about gangsters in London?
No.
I'm told by Emma that I have to.
It's good. It's good. Quite a lot of baddies in that. And the sort of the charming, lovable baddie, but he's still quite a bad baddie, Tom Hardy, drives a current model RS6. That just shrieks. The current RS6 shrieks baddie. It's black wheels, black trim.
Yeah.
It looks unpleasant, unwelcoming, bad. Bad things will happen at the hands of the people that get out of it. Get out of its way. It's just got baddie written all over it. Scroll back, crikey, 20 years to Layer Cake.
Oh,
Don't we love Layer Cake?
Yeah.
There was an RS6 in that.
Yeah.
Driven by the good baddies.
Yeah.
Bizarrely, including Tom Hardy, actually.
He was.
But that had chrome trim. It had silverish, greyish wheels.
Yeah. Had the small wheels.
Had the small, were they within 18-inch wheels?
Yeah. Yep.
That 20-year progression of that RS6 to where we are now is everything that Audi's got wrong. They can only make baddie cars now. So, I mean, the producer and I and Camp were talking about this during the day. The cliche answer is a Range Rover Sport, first generation Range Rover Sport.
Yeah,
the BBC TV show where all of the OCGs, organised crime groups, drive around in Range Rover Sports blacked out with the wrong number plates on. That made them look too new.
Yeah,
how did they get away with that? But now, if you had to pick one out, I would say the arc, to use a mannish word, get me, of the RS6 from Layer Cake to Mobland shows that you've got to go a long way to beat current model RS6. I haven't got a great little line that Neil's used, which I think is brilliant. But I think current model RS6...
You are slightly undone by that. I can give you a few minutes to make one up if you'd like.
No, I'll need until next week.
Okay.
Well, I think Audi is it, really? Because wasn't there an S8 in Ronin? What was that?
Audi S8.
They were sort of... Well, they were baddies. They were good baddies. Yeah. So this is good. This is interesting for me. I sort of had a bit of time to think about this. So when you used to sit on the sofa and your parents would let you watch something you wanted to watch, which was rare, and so you'd have, for me, it was, the usual TV shows that had cars in them, Dukes of Hazzard or whatever it was, Professionals. And the car bit, you waited for the car bits, didn't you? And if you got to an end of an episode, there were no car bits, you were like, oh, fuck, that was awful. I wish there'd been some car bits. There was no Capri. I used to watch Minder just to see that X-Pac Escort at the front of it, even though I wasn't allowed to watch Minder. My brother had to record Minder so I could see the opening titles. It was ridiculous. So, but there was one moment that struck me as being incredibly sinister. It was the most sinister car moment I think I'd ever witnessed as a young person. And even now, as I researched it, I was reminded of how I felt. And you need to be a certain age, and you chaps might be a bit too old without wanting to be rude. But I'm now going to list two things, and you're going to tell me to what I refer. Chariot of Gold was season 1, episode 18 of this show, and Killer Kit was season 3, episode 4 of this particular. So season 4, episode 13, I think, of this particular show, and this is where you got it yet or not?
No.
Okay. Knight Rider.
Well,
You've got Knight Rider, okay, and Kit is the central character. Kit is the talking car. The Knight Industries 2000 KITT, and it's just a force for good. Kit, he. But in those two episodes, Kit is reprogrammed and turns bad. Now, if you're a young man like me and you've substituted Kit for the person that's on the front of the Good News Bible, he's that important. He can solve anything. And what they did, particularly in Killer Kit, was this. They changed his voice.
No.
And he tries to kill Michael Knight.
No.
I didn't sleep that night because of that episode, because what the force for good became this evil thing. I'm going to bed thinking my whole world's upside down.
It changes everything.
Gone bad. He's lost that slightly brilliantly camp voice. He now talks like Darth Maul, and he wants to kill David Hasselhoff. What's gone on here? So, for me, Kit turned bad is the ultimate baddie car.
That's a winner. I'm amazed you've recovered. You may not have done, but that is the winner.
It did my melanin. That did.
I
So,
do
next
sort of
one.
almost remember that.
Okay.
Mm.
Here we go. Oh, here we go. We're now on to our two-car garage. Manish did this. I like this one. Okay. Bear with me. My peepers aren't very good at the moment. So, 10 years ago, you used to be a total Tesla bore, and then you added a Taycan Turbo S to your fleet of two cars and became an insufferable electric car evangelist. They don't exist, surely. But last night, you tripped over your charging cable and hit your head, and you've suddenly seen the light. You don't want a jelly mould car ever again with plastic fascia and whining motor. You want two new cars that exude character. Your budget is £100,000, no electric cars, nor hybrids allowed. Manish, you can answer it first because you posed it.
Well, for me, this was a story about, this is really a question about character and a couple of affordable cars. And character for me, they don't have to be reliable. They don't have to be beautiful. They just have to have some character. And there were two cars that I think that are eminently affordable and full of character. And the first one for me, I've never owned an Alfa Romeo, but I have to say, a mid-priced 2-litre Alfa Giulia Tributo would be full of character.
Yes,
But
true.
not new.
No, new, 47,836
That one.
pounds.
Oh, right, okay.
Cars were expensive.
The new one. It's a 2-litre engine, 280 horsepower. It's just a beautiful car. And I'm sure because it's an Alfa, it will give you
costs?
more. 47? I know, new. But Neil always says nobody looks at the sticker price. So in theory, it's $47. It's a great looking car. I'd rather have that than something with a lot less character. I think we've got a neighbour who has one, and it just sounds great. It just sounds so good. Really sexy looking thing. His is white. I'd probably get a red one, actually, with a black roof, black inside. I think it's a great car. And the other one, I was thinking, what would be the fun version of Lola that doesn't break down that I could get for...
That would be no fun.
Well, exactly. It wouldn't be any fun. But actually, I think you can still pick up, can't you, new just 28,000 quid. It's got to be a Toyota GR86. I just think, that car to chuck around, that or an MX-5. But I think the Toyota, Japanese, it's probably going to break down. It's a Toyota, but there's something about them. They look very stubby, don't they? They're stubby little things, and they're quite low, but it really looks like a car that is going to exude character when you drive it.
Capri. That's what Ford should have built.
Yeah.
I'm with you with that, actually. It's just got, it's a coupe. It's got the little front low layer,
Puma instead.
It's a great car. £28,000. How can you go wrong? How can you go wrong? So I've saved a load of money as well at the end.
You need it.
If you're an American driving a Ford Puma in trousers, you technically have Puma pants. All right, I'm trying. Right, Neil Clifford, off you go.
Right, I'm going to be very just logical, sensible. If I was given this challenge, I would go to Autocar website, which they're the best at doing the best ofs. It's a bit like What Hi-Fi.
Yeah,
top tens,
particularly for dyslexics, where you don't want to read a whole, you just want to know what's the best one. And so you go on and old Mr. Cropley and his gang, and you'd be like, okay, what's the best things? And I need an estate, BMW 3 Series.
That's why I was on the configurator.
I don't know what you'd get, but you'd get like the 340, or I haven't actually bloody looked, but you
320.
They're all good.
They're all good and expensive.
The 320 is brilliant. The 340, 330, whatever they are, I don't really know what that. But you'd get the BMW 3, the dash, the fonts. They're built for people that like driving. They just beat all the other German stuff. And then you'd be like, okay, so I've got my estate. I've got my sensible sort of shopping dog car, wife, kids, blah, 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 winter, all of that shit. So now I've got to get a little sports car, and the only little sports car that you can just about buy new because they stopped making them is the Alpine 110 with banjo in the front.
I almost went for that.
Yeah, and I think that's actually, if you max them all up, you could get to 100 grand, or you could be a bit frugal and save yourself 20 grand and get yourself something else as well, probably. But those are the two best cars on Autocar, I think.
Chris Cooper.
And that's exactly what I had.
No.
Until it was what I had, until I reached out metaphorically and rang that bell that we had at that live event and went for a Caterham instead of the BMW.
There we go. Right.
Because it's a really hard one, because I thought you've got to have a wagon, because wagons have character. Because I said, you're right, Manish, what do we mean by character? And character means, I mean, at one end they've got to have a heart, they've got to be fun to drive, and they've got to make you feel good. And a BMW 3 Series Touring does all of those things.
Everything.
But if you kind of dial that up, you think, if I drove past a Caterham on my BMW Touring, because I definitely go for the Alpine A110. It's just, I know we're lucky to have them. They're not very cheap cars, and you can't use them every day because of the discussion we had earlier about bottomage. You can't use them every day for everything. But you'd have one of those. So I think you go for Caterham 420, and they'd roughly both come to about 50,000, maybe 45, 55, something like that. But on another day, I'd have gone exactly what Neil's done.
Yeah. Well, you ring up. I'm lucky enough to know Matt Pryor on Autocar. And you'd say, Matt, give me some advice. I've got 100 grand. And 100% he would tell you the right thing to do. And he would say 3 Series Touring and Alpine 110.
I wish I knew a motoring journalist.
Yes. Do we know any?
You would not get as comprehensive advice about new cars from me as you would Matt Pryor. I haven't got a clue. I'm at that stage now where I see stuff going past, but I don't even know what it is.
What is that?
So, I know. What is that? So you've all come close, but it's amazing how far you've missed the target, really. Because, you've got lazy. I know a few of you like going off the cuff now and being a bit zany and saying, I won't do my research. But it's showing.
You hold him.
It's showing. It's showing. Right. First of all, the car I'm going to mention is almost as commodious, to go back to my Autocar road testing terms, as the 3 Series. It's not much more money, and it's much more fun, and it's dripping with character. It's the current Honda Civic Type R. It's an amazing car.
Yeah.
If any of you get to drive it, they are. If you get it in that slightly creamy Type R white with red front seats and titanium gear knob, it's a fantastic car. And you've all got to drive one, because it does stuff you can't quite believe over our roads. It's a brilliant car.
Yeah.
And the other one, you can get these, you genuinely can get these for 100 grand if you haggle. And I know it's controversial, but the great Charlie Turner, who used to run the Top Gear website and magazine, basically run my life when I was working at the BBC before he went to work at Ferrari, where he's now sadly moved on, came to see me for lunch yesterday, and he turned up in a 718 Boxster 4-cylinder. And I know it's the wrong Boxster, but what a car it is.
Great car.
Incredibly fast, incredibly tunable, very light. I know it sounds a bit like a Subaru, but I'm sort of over that now. You can buy a new 718 Boxster for 55 grand.
Wow.
You can. And I just think,
it's a great car.
You get the experience. You get to go to a Porsche showroom. You get to collect your car whilst they're all collecting their STs and their RSs. You're there on merit. And I think we all forget what it feels like to graduate to the showroom that you never thought you'd buy a car from. It's so special. So, I'm going Boxster 718 4-cylinder, and I'm going Honda Civic Type R. And I know at least two of you are going, he's done us there.
Yeah, he's done us there.
I think you've done well.
The answer is always Boxster, really.
The answer is always Boxster.
The answer is always Boxster. Yeah.
Manish, you've done yours, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, you have, sorry. So here we go. A bit of music before we finish. So, Manish, enlighten us, because we're just going to choose Genesis or Dire Straits or something. So
I wanted to go pop. I don't know why, but I thought about Ian McCulloch, Echo and the Bunnymen, and The Cutter. I think I don't have a very I'm not very football genetic, but I think Liverpool are going to become champions this week at some point. And Echo and the Bunnymen are like the archetypal Liverpudlian band, aren't they? The darkness of it in the 80s and 90s. So Echo and the Bunnymen, the cutter.
Yeah.
Cool.
Chris Cooper.
Yesterday afternoon, Lynn and I were in the car, and on the wireless came a song I love, and I hadn't heard for ages. It's by Dee Ream, You're the Best Thing. Loved it. Great in the car.
Nice.
Brave. It's a brave choice. There'll be some comments about that one.
I don't care.
Neil Clifford.
I went to America for 48 hours, and I watched the Bob Dylan movie on the plane, which is really, really bloody good. And there's a bit in it where he plays "The Times They Are A-Changing" live for the first time. Obviously, it's a film, so it's not the real Bob Dylan, but that's what movies do to you. You think that it's the real Bob Dylan for an hour and 40 minutes. And it's just like, oh my God, he might have been a bit of an arsehole because that's how he comes across in the movie. But what an incredible genius guy. And I would recommend, I know we're going to launch our new podcast of films recommendations, but I would definitely watch the movie. It's really good.
I was going to choose. I had this sorted out earlier in the week because I heard a piece of music, and then my eldest son, who I was with over the weekend, totally ruined it for me because he chose something really good. I love it when we're driving along and I've got boys in the car, and I've got an M5 Touring, new one at the moment. We're coming down through Wales. It was a good day for driving. We're having lots of fun. And my eldest, whereas I was never allowed to touch the controls, I positively encouraged them to get involved. So he's on the jukebox quite a lot. And we were just coming through a really beautiful section. I said, isn't Wales just gorgeous? And the sun was out. And he put on Everlong by the Foo Fighters. Ooh. And it was just the right, so when someone gets it, I thought you got it there. You put the right song for the right scenery. So well done to my eldest because it was the right song.
Nice.
And I can't do Man Eater by Hall & Oates because it would have been the wrong song for that moment, which is the song I was going to choose. Because I think it's one of the best pop songs ever written.
I know, in the context of today's podcast, it really is.
It really is. It really is. Now, before we finish, I want to just make a little announcement. You might know that I mentioned earlier that John McGuinness is someone I admire greatly and I think he's a good lad. And he has granted me a little bit of access to that world of TT riders. I don't know many of them, but I think they're otherworldly, and I see in them qualities that I wish I had. And I think anyone that meets them feels the same way. You walk away feeling a little bit embarrassed about your lack of bravery and about what they do. James Hillier is one of those people. Look him up. He's a fantastic rider. We'll put a link to his Instagram here now. Now he's had a tough couple of weeks. He lost his funding, lost his ride at the TT, and he's still going, but he's got a funding shortfall. But he's too proud a man to ask for money. So I'm tempted to ask for money on his behalf. If any of you who listen to this have got a few quid and want to help him out, just get in contact on Instagram or get in contact with Finn, who produces this, because I think James is too proud to ever have a GoFundMe page, and I respect him for that. But he's got a shortfall. He's going to go to the TT, but if one spanner breaks, he's in trouble. And this is a man who does the TT in the summer, and then to sort of de-risk himself, as we've discussed on this program before, in the winter he does the Dakar on a bike. He's made of stuff we can't imagine.
Yeah.
But I don't want him not to be there, and nor should anyone. And if anything we can do in our community to help him get there, we should do. So let's find a way of helping him out, is all I say. And there's no obvious way of donating at the moment, which is odd, I know. But that's the way these riders work. So I look him up on Instagram. He's James Hillier, I think 37 on Instagram. We'll double check that. But this is a bloke we want riding because he's an absolute legend, and he's really, really good fun. And his hot sauce will burn you 4 new bum holes. It's that hot, so you have to buy some of that. Thank you very much to Manish, to Neil, and to the other Chris. And we'll be back for episode, I check my notes, 35 next week.